When this show premiered recently, I didn't even realize it at the time. That's how little hype there was around A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. And honestly, I didn't care. After what happened with Game of Thrones and after getting strung along again by House of the Dragon, I wasn't exactly lining up for another trip to Westeros. But then I watched it, and now I'm sitting here thinking, this is the best thing HBO has done with Game of Thrones in years. Not because it's bigger, not because it's darker, not because it's packed with dragons and political backstabbing. It works because it's smaller, it's simpler, and it actually feels human. So might we be witnessing the redemption of Game of Thrones? Before getting into why I'm really liking this show and why it's so well done, let's figure out why I wasn't exactly in a minority in my thinking about another Game of Thrones show coming out. Chances are, if you're watching this video, you know the debacle that was the ending of Game of Thrones. I'm not going to go into detail about everything that was wrong with how that show ended, the last couple of seasons, and the final season especially. Look, not everyone is going to be happy with how a show ends. I'm sure in some alternate universe, there's some jackass who didn't like Breaking Bad's ending. But with Thrones, it wasn't just that the ending disappointed people, it felt rushed. It felt careless. And it felt like the audience just didn't matter. People swore it off forever and would refuse to support anything Thrones related in the future. Of course, that didn't stop HBO from moving forward with the first spinoff. Hey, do you have depression? If you answered no, but you're wondering what all the buzz is about and curious to try it, then may I suggest watching House of the Dragon. Holy shit. This show's tone, story, and characters make Jon Snow look like Leslie Knope. Now, the first season was pretty decent. It's well written, the actors are excellent, and most of the characters have depth and all that. But it's plotting and methodical. And that's fine, especially when you get good moments that hook you in and keep you wanting to see what's next. The second season wasn't hateful by any means, but they really fucked up by just stretching shit out that didn't need stretching. I mean, we're expecting a big-ass war for power to take place during the season, and they end it with both sides still preparing for this war. Are you kidding me? 8 episodes at an hour apiece. That's 8 hours of screen time to, at the very least, get this war started. Instead, they leave you there hanging. And to top it all off, you gotta wait 2 to 3 years for the next season to come out. Assholes. So it goes without saying that maybe people weren't in the mood to get hyped for another Game of Thrones series.
It says, fool me once, shame on you. If fool me, we can't get fooled again.
But almost immediately, Night of the Seven Kingdoms just felt a little different. An incident in the first 5 minutes definitely got people talking. Let's just say shit happens. If you know, you know. We follow Duncan, who just lost his mentor. He's wanting to get into a jousting tournament. So right away, pretty basic stuff. No murder, no political intrigue, no grand scheme to take over the throne. Just Dunk, who's a pretty simple guy. No, not that kind of simple. Dunk isn't dumb. He ain't exactly a scholar, but he's not a complete idiot. He's just a guy who seems to want to do what's right, mind his own business, and not cause any problems. He just wants to go to this tournament. Along the way, he runs into a young boy named Egg. Egg offers to squire for Duncan, and Dunk pretty much tells him to piss off. Now Egg follows Dunk to the tournament without him knowing this, and the relationship begins. And the best parts of this show have been the interactions with Dunk and Egg. A lot of times, it just ends up being funny dialogue between the two of them. It's kind of a wholesome dynamic, and their bond strengthens quickly. This is one of the things that separates this show from the previous Thrones entries. You may not even realize you're watching something from the Game of Thrones world if not for Targaryens and a Baratheon appearing in this. By the way, Lionel Baratheon is just a cool guy. I'd like to grow up and be like him one day. Anyways, there's a lot of humor in this show, and the music is really different from what you've heard in the other Thrones series. The nice thing about this show, too, is the pace of it. This first season is 6 episodes at 30 minutes each. They go fast, and that's because you're invested in everything right away. There's not 48 characters to follow and 25 different subplots going on. You don't need to know the different houses and their family trees, or who wants who dead and which sister is fucking which brother. None of that goes on here. It's simple, well-told storytelling. Now, one thing that has stood out in all the Game of Thrones shows so far is the casting and the acting. Night of the Seven Kingdoms has this aspect nailed too. The actors have been excellent in this show. The casting has been seemingly perfect. The best example of that is who they got playing Duncan Egg. Peter Claffey plays Sir Duncan the Tall. It doesn't look like he has a ton of acting experience on his resume, and he was a pro rugby player, which certainly comes in handy with some of the physicality of the role. But he just seems to get the essence of Duncan. He is likable and portrays an easy kindness with Dunk. There's a lot of subtlety with this role too. Dunk really lacks self-confidence around people he meets for the first time. He gives off a certain social awkwardness in a lot of situations, and it's actually very endearing. And he's also had the chance to show range, be it comedic timing, anger, sadness, and using facial expressions. He does a really good job using his eyes to act, if I may say so, and sound quite pretentious while saying it. This guy just kills it as Sir Duncan the Tall. But the star of the show is Dexter Soul Ansell, who plays Egg. Man, this kid is on point. Child actors are so hit or miss, and it's usually a miss. I mean, you got some good ones over the years. The Stranger Things kids were great in season 1. Macaulay Culkin in Home Alone, Henry Thomas in E.T., and there's obviously some others, but most child actors suck. Just the overacting, trying too hard to be cute. They just got that twerpy theater kid vibe about them.
Now, as I was saying, look, here comes that Yankee Doodle boy. I'm a Yankee Doodle dandy. Yankee Doodle do or die.
Out, damn you, I'm done with you.
You know what I mean. The parents tell these little shits how great they are, that they're so special and talented. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Jesus. I don't know who's more annoying, theater kids or theater parents. But this kid playing Egg is different. He does such a great job. There's a great chemistry between him and Dunk. He's also able to show a wide range too. He's got to act scared. He's got to cry, which he does very convincingly. He's intelligent, but has to walk a fine line between being smart, but not letting on that he's too smart. And sometimes he just gets to act like a kid. There's nothing here that feels forced or phony coming from this guy. And this is a big role. By that I mean he's one of the two main focal points in the show. This isn't something where the kid shows up for one scene, is given a cute one-liner to say, and then he's done. He's got a lot to do, on top of the fact that it's on a mature show for adult audiences. This kid deserves all the credit in the world for his performance in this one. I've tried to avoid any spoilers for this. If you haven't watched it, do yourself a favor and give it a shot. I think that's where the redemption aspect of the Thrones franchise, if you want to call it that, comes in. It's received high praise from the get-go, but where it's at now is mainly due to word of mouth. That comes from people telling others, look, I get you feel burned by Game of Thrones and that hot D, but this is different. Sometimes smaller stakes and characters can still elicit big emotion. Now, we know the problems that have been attached to Thrones. Apparently, Night of the Seven Kingdoms is going to do a total of 3 seasons. If HBO is paying attention, this is the blueprint. Smaller stories, strong casting, character first, spectacle second. I think eventually we all want to see Robert's Rebellion made into a show. If the powers that be see what's working with the Night of the Seven Kingdoms and don't fuck with it, they may just get a lot of fans back with the spinoffs planned. Now, did it win you back, or are you just done with Game of Thrones altogether? Comment below with what you're thinking. All right, I gotta go. The old lady is having a colonoscopy later this week, and she just drank the stuff to clear things out. Now she's calling for me to come to the bathroom. God only knows what's going on in there.